Hi, fourth graders. Welcome to our lab on glaciers. Today we're going to be using mini glaciers to see what happens when the glaciers run over the land. Did you know that Ohio used to be covered by glaciers? In fact, a lot of our landforms that we have today, like valleys and hills and plains, have been carved by those glaciers. Even the Great Lakes at the top of Ohio are glacier meltwater. So glaciers are really important to Ohio's geology and to Ohio's history. Since we can't get a real glacier here, I made some mini glaciers. To make a mini glacier, all you need is a small container. I actually used an ice cube tray and made a bunch of them, but you can do it with just one small container. And glaciers, they form over a long period of time. They don't just happen. A glacier doesn't just all of a sudden exist. It forms in layers. And these layers I represented by freezing my glacier in different layers. So the first thing I did was I put a little bit of water in the bottom of the tray and I froze that for a few hours. And then, since glaciers do move across the earth, they pick up things that are in their way. They pick up rocks, they pick up sediment or dirt, they pick up sticks, they pick up trees. I mean, glaciers are huge. So I tried to represent that with some gravel, some dirt from my backyard, and maybe a few sticks or pieces of mulch in there. So I just froze it a little at a time, added a couple other things mixed with water, and kept freezing layers until I had my glacier. So, a glacier, what is it? Well, it's a really, really big piece of ice that covers part of the land and moves really slowly. If you remember from one of our earlier units in science, when something moves, it creates a force, the rubbing together force of friction. Friction, like when you do this with your hands, friction causes heat. And so heat, we know, melts ice. So when these glaciers, which have a lot of mass, so they're going to create a lot of friction, even if they're just moving really slowly, when they move across the land, they're going to cause friction. They're going to cause heat. And heat is going to melt the ice on the bottom. So the ice on the bottom is going to be melted. It's going to be liquid. But then, since they do move so slowly, they're going to freeze again pretty quickly. So the bottom of a glacier is just constantly melting, freezing, picking up things that are in its way. And so it's going to move across an area of land just like that. Now, this glacier, I'm trying to speed it up a little bit because if this was a real glacier, it would take a very long time for this glacier to melt. But since we don't have a lot of time, and since this glacier is mini, we are going to just kind of speed up the process. And what is happening with this glacier is that, I don't know if you can see that. I'm trying to get a good shot of it. Um, what's happening with this glacier is that a lot of the sediment, a lot of the dirt is coming out with the water and it's staying on the ground. In your book, they called some of the sediment and rocks that may fall out of your glacier, they called that moraine. So, like gravel and rocks and boulders and things like that that are going to come out of this glacier and be left behind as the glacier continues to move forward is going to be called moraine. Okay. Once we get to, I'm going to switch to one that has melted a little bit more to save us some time. Uh, Once we get to some of the harder parts that are frozen in the glacier, this is a styrofoam little container. And once we, just to represent the land, once we get to an area in this glacier where there are some hard rocks or even some sticks that are sticking out at the bottom, uh, they are going to kind of cut into the earth. So I'm pushing on my plate. I'm not trying to rip through the plate, but I am pushing on the plate while I move my glacier back and forth. And I'm creating little lines, little grooves in the plate. These grooves in the plate, if you feel it, you can feel those ridges, you can feel those little valleys. These grooves are actually just called glacier grooves. So there are glacier grooves up near northern Ohio. There's glacier grooves, and you can still see them today. They're really, really deep. I'll have to look up for you and let you know later some pictures of those. Those are on Kelly's Island. So if you want to look it up on your own, you can. But in northern Ohio, they have huge glacier grooves, and that was just when a glacier just scraped through. There were some big boulders, big rocks sticking out the bottom, and they just scraped the land, leaving behind some grooves. So you can also see that there's more sediment being deposited. The glacier moraine, which is going to be the stuff that's not just water, is going to be coming out of the glacier and being left behind. And so a glacier is not just ice. It's a lot of the stuff that the glacier picks up along the way. Here's one that I did earlier that melted completely. Sometimes glaciers are going to make grooves, like they did on the other one. Sometimes they're just going to make deep pits, kind of like the Great Lakes. They're going to make deep pits in the earth, and then that glacier water, when it melts, is going to fill them up. So that's how our Great Lakes are made of glacier water. It's not as cold as a glacier anymore, but it's still glacier water, so it's fresh water. So that is our lab. It's very easy to recreate, and it's really a lot more fun if you do it in person than if you watch me do it. But I just wanted to give you a demonstration about the glacier grooves. You'll see that again on some of the videos that I'm going to have you watch next week. They'll talk about glacier grooves and moraine, and I just wanted to be able to demonstrate those terms for you so that you had a visual for those. This lab is not super clean. You don't have to try this lab on your own since you did see me do it, but with your parents' permission or whoever's in charge at your house, you can easily recreate these mini glaciers. Remember to freeze it in layers and just freeze some stuff that you find outside inside of that glacier, and then just have some fun with it. Okay? Thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. But otherwise, that was our lab for today. I'll see you soon. Bye.